And good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we will be taking a broad look around the DMV sports landscape. We're going to start off by looking at some of the preseason action in the NFL, seeing how the Ravens and Commanders are doing both in preseason and in training camp, and looking at some of the positions of interest. We're also going to take a look at the Mystics, who are now playing again post-Olympics. We're going to see how the week treated the Orioles and Nationals, and we are going to touch on the Olympics themselves, all while kicking off French White Wine Month with a beautifully tasty option. We've got all of that and more coming up on Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And once again, good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and who, for the past 10 years and counting, has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. If you have not done so already, please follow us on all social media platforms on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for however long it's going to be around at IE Sports Radio. Follow yours truly at Let's Whine _IASR. And of course, check out our website, iesportsradio.com. There you can find our merchandise at the link below. You can get all sorts of different things, hats, t-shirts, hoodies, the whole shebang. Definitely check that out. You can check out our sports pages, including the one for this show particularly, but all of our great shows, 30 and counting, 30 plus, I'll say, and counting. And of course, you can find the blog there at the /blog option. You can also find it at iesportsradioblog.wordpress.com. And you can listen to us on all of the below options: Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Instagram Live. We are on it all right now. So whether you are tuning in live or if you're listening later on in the week or over the weekend, we do appreciate it as always. And of course, we cannot continue going any further without some shout outs of our sponsors, Planet Jerky, premium beef brisket jerky. It is jerky that's on a whole other level. And Seal the Deal wax seals. But why listen to me blabber on about them? Let's give them an official word, an official tribute.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Beef Brisket Jerky that's truly on a whole other world. They've got all different kinds of flavors ranging from the classic, the simple flavors like barbecue, all the way up to volcanic jalapeno, ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper, the really hot stuff as well. But it's all great and it is all fantastic, and you can order any of it right here at planetjerky.net, and do be sure to follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. And of course, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, the perfect little touch to a fancy occasion, to a special occasion, invitations, accent pieces, all of that stuff. Do be sure to check them out at Instagram at sealthedeal_wax seals. We've got a lot of sports to get to this evening, but of course, we must start with the wine. Now, last month we had Summer Beverage Month, which was essentially Summer Beer Month, upon further review. But today we kick off a new campaign. We are still in the summer months, month of August, still very hot outside. I don't know if it is where you are, but it certainly is where I am. And we, of course, still enjoy something fresh, something crisp, something light, something enjoyable. And so for that, I decided to go with a white wine theme. And I particularly wanted to focus in on French white wines. Why? Because French white wines are tasty. And so I went with it. There's no particular reason. August isn't French wine month or anything by any stretch of the imagination. It's just I had some French wines and I decided to make it a feature. So we are kicking it off with a wine that I've never had before. In fact, I have not had any of the wines that we are going to be having this month. So that's truly exciting for me. But we are kicking it off with a Muscadet. Now, this is specifically a Muscadet, and it's very tough to read because the print is almost the same color as the label, but is a Muscadet from the Sèvres-et-Marne region of the Loire Valley. Now, we've discussed the Loire Valley in the past on this show. It is a valley that follows the Loire River from the Atlantic coast side of France all the way to almost the center of the country. It's actually a very long, relatively thin, like depth-wise region, but it just kind of follows the river right on through into the middle of the country. And it's broken up into multiple sections. And the section closest to the ocean is Sèvres-et-Marne. Now, this region, and this wine is one of those, is particularly known for, and again, you can't really see it on the bottle because of the lettering, but it is particularly known for aging their wine sur lie. Now, what does that mean? Well, the lies, basically, in order to get alcohol in wine, what the vast majority of producers do is they introduce yeast cells, which eat the wine and produce alcohol through the chemical processes of the yeast interacting with the sugars in the wine. One of the byproducts is alcohol when the process is not introduced to oxygen. When there is oxygen, when there is oxygen present, you get the alcohol. When there isn't oxygen present, you get carbon dioxide, which is how they make sparkling wines. So What happens is these yeast cells interact with the sugars and then they die after the chemical process. And that is what is called the lees. Now, most cases, they remove the lees almost right away, but there's an option to age your wine sur lie on the lees. Now, what does that typically do with the wine? Typically, it gives it a little bit of a richer texture. And I'm having trouble opening the screw cap. There we go. Got it. I love a screw cap wine, by the way. Very handy and very convenient. Um, but yeah, it gives it a little bit of a richer flavor, a little bit more depth, and a little bit more mouthfeel. It does not add alcohol to the wine in any way, shape, or form. In fact, let's take a look what type of alcohol content we are dealing with. 13%. So that is slightly on the higher side for a white wine. Typically, they fall in the 11 to 14% range. So it's not out of the range, but it is on the higher end of the range there. And the Muscadet grape, yes, it sounds a lot like Moscato. No, it is not Moscato. It is a relative of Moscato because the grape branch, the family tree, as you would describe it, for the Moscato grape has hundreds of grapes part of it, and Muscadet is one of them. There's also a Spanish grape called Muscadel, which is very similar. And there are numerous other grapes that branch off of that. So it is a relative of the Moscato grape, but it is not the Moscato grape. It is not typically sweet, although it can have a little bit of sweetness. It is usually a lighter styled wine, and you can see it in the color as we get nice and close there. It is a very clear color. Almost slightly pinkish. Maybe that might just be the lighting in my house. No, yeah, there's no pinkish. Ignore the pink part. It is definitely a lighter color, but it's definitely a lighter color. And when we tilt to the side, as I've told you guys, you can get a good feel for the body by the little ring that forms around the edge of the wine as you're looking at it. You look at it from the top is where you can best get it. So this one has a little bit of a ring to it. So at most it would be a medium body. It's probably light to medium body. Let's give it a sniff. Ooh, very fresh flavors, kind of a tropically flavor to it, and on the aroma. Smell. It's got a little bit of a dryness to it. So there's a couple of different components we're working off of the nose. Let's give it a little swirl. See if we can't open it up a little bit more. Got to get your swirl on. There we go. I was never good at the midair swirl. If you notice, I had to start at the table to get it going, and now I've got the motion, and now we're getting the swirl on. So there we go. And let's give it a sniff again. Yep, still getting those tropical flavors, almost kind of a pineapple guava aroma going to it. Yeah, definitely getting some pineapple on the nose. But of course, it all comes down to the taste. Your wine can smell spectacular, it can look spectacular, but it doesn't matter unless it tastes good. So let's give it a taste. So, mouthfeel is probably one of the more difficult components of a wine to describe. Um, it's not heavy, but it has a fullness to it. It has a richness to it. It's kind of like, what's the word? I'm trying to compare it to something that's a little bit more relatable, but it just has a little bit more to it. It's like drinking like a watered down drink, like a watered down juice versus a 100% juice. For example, the watered down juice isn't going to have a ton of like flavor, a ton of weight to it, but the full juice is going to have some more impact to it. So, yep, I do still get that very strong pineapple. Let's see if there's a description of the wine on the back. Let's take a look. So this is a 2022 vintage. You can see right there, and there's your region. By the way, they included a little map there, so that's where the Loire Valley. So you can see it starts on the coast and it extends pretty far inland, almost halfway across the country. So its expanse is quite a long way. Let's see. Uh, since 1799, Philippe Chanier, which by the way, that is the winemaker, is Philippe Chanier. Philippe Chanier's family is one of the most awarded and renowned producers in France. My, aren't we fancy? Today, Philippe follows in his family's footsteps and handpicks the best vineyards wines that show the truest expression of the Loire Valley. So pale yellow. Yep, we definitely got that one. It says green reflections. I guess I could kind of see it, but I don't really get that. Elegant and mineral flavors. There's a little bit of minerality to it. I just don't know how to describe minerality, to tell you. White flower aromas. I could see it. And then it pairs well with oysters, seafood, and white meats. So it's a white wine. That's what that one's telling you. So yeah, overall, it's very tasty wine. It's not as dry as the nose might have suggested. It is a little bit of dry. It does have a little bit of that dryness on the tongue and a little bit of acidity to it. Actually, there's a lot of acidity to it. I'm getting a little bit of that mouth-watering feeling right now. But overall, it's a very good wine. It's a very well-balanced wine. And it's got the summer, all the summery characteristics. It's a lighter, not super heavy. It's not super dry. It goes down relatively easily. Yeah, this is very good. Very good wine for sure. We are going to take a quick break. Excuse me. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are actually going to get into our sports finally. So do not go away. You're listening to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Now let's get into some actual sports. We've talked about sponsors. We've talked about wine. It's about time we actually talked about some sports. And we're going to kick it off with some football here. And we are going to start with the Commanders. Now, expectations on the Commanders are pretty low going into the season. I think and those who tuned in to 3 and Out, the 8 divisions and 8 days a couple weeks ago would know my expectations of the Commanders are not incredible, but I do expect progress and learning. And so how did they do in their first preseason game? Well, they lost to the New York Jets 20-17. Now, I don't put a ton of stock into preseason games. I put some. I pay attention to certain things, like I pay attention to how the offensive linemen perform. And I pay attention to the first team and some of the second team. But, I've seen great teams lose many preseason games. I've seen bad teams win many preseason games. So the actual final result is not particularly important to me. What is important is the evolution and the growth of the team. Now, the first team offense did very well. Jaden Daniels went 2 for 3 for 45 yards. So, he only played one drive, but it was a very effective drive. It was a 10-play, 75-yard drive, capped off with a 3-yard Jaden Daniels touchdown run, and that was the end of it. And that was obviously, as you can see, most of the end of the offensive production as well. The defense did pretty well. Emmanuel Forbes, who's been the focus of a lot of attention, last year's first-round pick at corner, had an up-and-down day. I do not believe there was much in terms of a pass rush. Let's take a look. Jets quarterbacks were sacked, only one sack. It was Tyrod Taylor. That sucks. I like Tyrod Taylor. Don't sack Tyrod Taylor. Come on, guys. And it was a backup defensive tackle who made it, a guy, Benny Potoai. Benny Potoai, who is unlikely to make the team barring injury. But yeah, other than that, nothing really major to report. The first team offense looked really well. And you know who else looked really good was second round pick tight end Ben Sano, a pick that I was curious about. He's got a really interesting skill set, but he was bulldozing some guys in preseason. He had a really long play, 40-yard catch, at the end of which he was pulling probably about 3 or 4 Jets players down the field with him. So, hey, go get it, rookie. I was happy to see it, and I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. My only concern is, guys with that physical style of play usually end up, overdoing it at some point and getting hurt. So that's something to watch as the season and preseason progress. But what are the positions to really focus in on for the Commanders? Well, this is the list that I've compiled. You could probably go a little bit more. The reason why I know a lot of people would say quarterback because the team has a rookie quarterback and their backup situation's a little bit hit or miss. And to be honest, that's why it's not a position to watch, because Jaden Daniels is going to start the majority of the season. He started the first preseason game. And to be honest, the guys that get the least amount of playing time in the preseason are usually the guys. There's one of two categories. It's the guys who aren't going to make the team and the guys who are certainly going to play during the regular season. Daniels is clearly not the latter, so he's got to be the first. Daniels is going to start the majority of the year. He's going to be a rookie. He's going to have his growing pains. He's going to use his legs. So, no, quarterback isn't a position to watch because we have a pretty fair expectation of what to expect out of a rookie who's a mobile quarterback. I think we have a pretty good feel on that. Now, the offensive line is going to be important. A lot of new pieces on this group. Amazingly, the right side of the offensive line is pretty well locked in with Samuel Cosme and Andrew Wiley, although I think Samuel Cosme is a little bit banged up. But new starting center, Tyler Biadasz, new starting left guard, projected Nick Allegretti, and the left tackle spot could be veteran journeyman Cornelius Lucas, could be rookie second-round pick Brandon Coleman. Heck, it could even be Braden Daniels, last year's fourth-round pick. For all we know, I doubt it's going to be the last one, but there are multiple pieces that are new. There are multiple there's a very important position is a key battle position. So offensive line is definitely important to watch to see how that involves and make sure that left guard through right tackle are meshing and gelling correctly, and that right tackle is left tackle is at least stable enough so that Jaden Daniels doesn't get destroyed. Wide receiver is also an interesting spot behind Terry McLaurin, they were rumored to be in the running. The Commanders were for Brandon Ayuk. That does not look like it's going to happen. So now they're left to see, okay, who's going to win the second receiver job? Who's going to be the third receiver? Who's going to be four? They have a handful of guys competing for the spot. They have Jahan Dotson, first round pick from 2 years ago. They have not Curtis Samuel, Jamison Crowder, veteran who's been with the team before and played the slot role before. They have rookie third-round pick Luke McCaffrey. They have former third-round pick De'Ami Brown. They even have a couple of young guys vying for some spots. So big wide open competition for playing time behind Terry McLaurin. This offense really only has McLaurin as a proven weapon, and then running back Austin Eckler out of the backfield, and also tight end Zach Ertz. So those are three of your top targets. Who's going to get the rest of the targets? Because you can't throw the ball to those three guys 30 to 35 times. I mean, you probably could, but it's generally considered not a good strategy. Cornerback's another big one, due to, in part, the evolution of Emmanuel Forbes, seeing how that works out. Also, veteran Michael Davis coming into town, and also the rookie Mike Sanistril, how those guys put together. And also if Benjamin St-Juste can hold down a starting spot as well. And then I put edge, but really it's the whole defensive front. New defense under Dan Quinn, a new defensive coordinator came over with him from Dallas. They like to use a varying formation, so it'll be interesting to see how they line guys up, who plays in what position. I know Jamin Davis is playing a slightly different position. They brought in multiple free agents, Doris Armstrong, Clelin Ferrell, Dante Fowler. They almost completely revamped the whole edge position group, and they revamped linebacker. They added Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu as well. So really just curious to see how the whole defense looks under a new defensive-minded coach, because obviously they had Ron Rivera, who was a defensive-minded coach, but Dan Quinn is different and new. So we'll see how that goes. But good reports, no really major injuries have been announced. So that's good. The team is staying relatively healthy. And honestly, if you can make it through the preseason that way, you already have a significant advantage over the rest of the league. So yeah, let's keep that trend going, folks. I think that's a really important one. Next up, we have the Ravens, who also did not have the greatest first postseason. First preseason game, they lost to Philadelphia 16-13. Not really much offense in this one, although naturally, I do not believe Lamar Jackson played at all. Let's take a quick look at the stats here. No Lamar Jackson. It was all Josh Johnson, Devin Leary, and Emory Jones. The offense was virtually non-existent. They ran a grand total of 50 plays and had 164 yards. Honestly, I don't even know how they got a touchdown out of that. But again, not many of your big players participated. Defense did pretty well. They held the Eagles to 16 points, had a couple of sacks. But yeah, really just kind of an uneventful game. Justin Tucker was perfect, so there you go. And Jordan Stout did really good. So the punter and kicker are performing well for the Ravens, so that's a great start to the preseason. But what are their positions to watch? O-line again coming up. In this particular case, it's almost across the whole line. I'm not as concerned about Tyler Linderbaum at center, although I think he may be banged up a little bit. The health of Ronnie Stanley at left tackle is going to be major. The competitions at left guard, and right tackle, although pretty much after the first preseason game, every Ravens fan is pretty well convinced that the starting five from left to right is going to be Stanley. Second-year guard Andrew Voorhees is going to get the left guard spot. Linderbaum at center. Ben Cleveland, the fourth-year player, is going to get the right guard spot, and rookie Roger Rosengarten at right tackle. So fans are pretty convinced that that's going to be the lineup, and I think it's definitely trending that way. Former mid-round pick Daniel Fa'alele has been given multiple chances to participate at guard and tackle, and rumor has it he has not done great at either spot. He might be on the way off of the roster. Patrick McCarry, the veteran, is going to be a key backup. He's a 5-position backup, so those are rare, and you got to use your guys to your player strength. And also veteran journeyman Josh Jones, who they signed as a 1-year deal as a free agent, has actually done very well and played multiple positions well. So I think you've got your potential starting 5 and your top 2 backups kind of locked in place. It's just a question of whether you keep 8 offensive linemen or 9 offensive linemen. I'm of the belief that rookie 7th-round pick Nick Samek is going to be a backup center and probably what you would describe as the last offensive lineman, because typically when you usually, if everyone's healthy, ideally you cross your fingers that you only need to dress 7 offensive linemen because of the roster restrictions. You can't dress every player, which I think is kind of a odd rule, but I get it. You don't want teams who are injured to be at a disadvantage against teams that aren't injured, I guess, or you could just rework the injury rule to make it a little bit easier for teams. But the league's got their patterns, so whatever. But ideally, you only dress 7, so your last 1 to 2 guys would only dress if another guy was injured. So Nick Samek, I would expect to be one of the 1 or 2 remaining offensive linemen, and then probably Malesala Amuave, Mal, as they call him, on the team as his nickname, would probably be number 8. So that's 8 and 9. I think the offensive line, barring injury, of course, cross your fingers, might already be set for the Ravens. Backup quarterback is another interesting spot. All of the guys looked really rough in the preseason game. Devin Leary, 6th-round pick, didn't vote a lot of confidence. Josh Johnson, the veteran journeyman who they brought back this year, also didn't look great. So I don't know what they're going to do about that. They might have to go to the veteran market, existing guys. I hear Ryan Tannehill is still available. So hell, if he'll sign for the 1-year vet minimum, that might be a worthwhile cause. And then wide receiver, always with the Ravens, who's going to come out on top? Zay Flowers is going to have a pretty good spot. Is Rashad Bateman going to lock down the number 2 spot across from Flowers? Is rookie Devontae Walker going to get good playing time? Is Nelson Aguilar going to get more of it? How it's going to shake out. Always an interesting trial. And then really another one that I didn't have room to type in here, but the newcomers, the guys, we talked about this at 8 Divisions in 8 Days. The Ravens are really big fans of next man up mentality. They had a lot of free agents leave. It's time for some of those next guys to step up. Guys like Trent Simpson at linebacker, guys like David Ojabo at as edge rusher, So the next man up got to be the next man up. So that's the biggest summary I can make on that one. Before we take our last break, we are going to quickly touch on the Mystics. Now, the Mystics did not play, obviously, during the Olympics because, well, the women's basketball was on hold, but they are back, and they did lose, unfortunately, to the Minnesota Lynx 79-68. So that drops them to 6-20 on the season, still struggling, a little bit more competitive than they were. So that's a great sign. However, they're still kind of floundering down there at the bottom of the league. Let's see who did well yesterday for them. Let's take a quick look. Looks like Ariel Atkins led the way with 12 points, 11 points from Brittany Sykes, Shakira Austin back in the lineup. So the team actually looks relatively healthy. Looks like Shatori Walker Kimbrough's in there, Carly Sampson, Brittany Sykes, Shakira Austin. Yeah, it looks like the team is pretty healthy. Unfortunately, it just didn't do them enough good against the Lynx. So we'll keep track of how the Mystics continue to progress in this season. But as we've discussed multiple times before, really not the greatest season on tap for the Mystics. We're going to take our last break of the evening. When we come back, we're going to touch on baseball. We're going to look at how things are going for the Orioles and the Nationals, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. So do not go away. You are listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate die-hard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We're going to wrap up this evening pretty quick, but of course I will remind everybody of the show's main message, which is please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media topics regarding this is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. Let's take a quick look. We're not talking about the games right now because they're not going well, so we're going to skip that. But let's take a quick look at some of where we are currently standing with our Orioles. So they are 6-4 in their last 10 games, 72-50 overall, on their way to 72-51 this evening. Yeah, it's been a little bit up and down. It seems like they're almost getting their momentum back, but then not quite getting it back over the last few weeks. So, cross your fingers that things keep trending. Tonight was a really rough start with Corbin Burns. So, it happens. So you take the loss, you move on. You've got 2 more games against the Red Sox this weekend. If they win one of those 2, they clinch the season series, and they split with the Red Sox for the weekend so they don't lose any ground in the playoff race. We also did get some injury updates this past week. All-star third baseman Jordan Westburg who fractured his wrist on a hit by pitch about a month ago, a little bit more, less than a month ago. He is projected to be back by the end of September. We're hopeful that he'll be back in time for the playoffs. Same with pitchers Grayson Rodriguez, Danny Colome, and Joe Webb. Now, do all four of those guys make it back? I'd be surprised, just because we don't have that kind of luck with injury. I have a feeling somebody won't be back for the playoffs, but we do desperately need Grayson Rodriguez back, because I don't think this pitching staff and Danny Colome, we need those two back, because I don't think this pitching staff is making it past a wild card exit with the way it's been super inconsistent lately, and especially with the magnificent downfall of Craig Kimbrell, who since the All-Star break has an absurd ERA. I think it's like a 10 ERA. He actually gave up 3 runs tonight, is one of the reasons why tonight is going so poorly. So we need those guys back, because otherwise this team, and they're just not. They've been a 500 team for the past 2 months now, and unless they can get some momentum back, if they finish the season 500, that's not how you want to make it to the playoffs. You know, when you're 24 games above 500 at the 75 game mark, you're pretty hopeful. And the fact that they've lost ground, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. But we hold up our hope, and we hope that things can keep progressing for them. For the Nationals, they are 4-6 in their last 10 games. They've made it to 55-67 overall. The big news for them is James Woods has adjusted to Major League Baseball, and he's doing really well. He actually clobbered the Orioles when they played earlier this week, and they split their 2-game series. And also, Keibert Ruiz's resurgence. I feel like this is not getting enough love in the DC media. But so at one point in the year, Keibert Ruiz, the catcher for the Nationals, had, and it was absurd, it was something like a 135 or 140 batting average, and his OPS, his offensive, his on-base plus slugging percentage was below 400. It was like 398. So those are horrific numbers, like worst in the league numbers. Now his batting average is up into the low 200s, so it's increased about 100 points, and his OPS is actually almost to 700, which has increased a few hundred points. And in last night's game against the Phillies, he had 2 home runs. So Keibert Ruiz, he's whatever was irking him at the beginning of the season, he has now figured it out, and he is actually playing well. And that is something that the Nationals are going to need as they rebuild, because they signed him to an 8-year extension. So usually those are the guys that you need to continue to perform. So I'm happy for Keibert, and I'm very happy for James Wood. And I think, the only thing left for the Nationals this season is to get some more young guys to the team and let them get some big league experience, particularly potentially last year's first-round pick Dylan Cruz could be with the team. I'm thinking at the September 1st roster expansions. I think that'd be a very ideal time to bring him up and get him in the outfield with Wood. I think that's what the fans have been hoping for, and I think that the Nationals owe it to them, as they've done this rebuild process, to make it happen. And last but not least, I did want to give a shout out to the DMV Olympics. That's right. The Olympics have officially wrapped up. I missed most of them, not going to lie, but the DMV did represent. We had a total of, let's see, I believe it was 14 medalists from the DMV area. Some of the highlights: Katie Ledecky out of DC, obviously one of the best female swimmers in the world. Quincy Wilson won multiple medals, I think he just won 1 gold medal, but it was, a gold medal. So, you can't down talk that in athletics. And then they also had Tori Husk, was a 5-medal winner in swimming, 3 gold and 2 silver. So those guys kind of led the way. But again, 14 Olympic medalists for the DMV is a fantastic showing. And yeah, way to represent, guys. Katie Ledecky, fantastic. Some other names on that list include swimmer Thomas Hellman, swimmer Charlie Swanson, Grant Holloway, Christian Tebesh for rowing. Those are your Virginia participants. From Maryland, we had, hang on, Aaron Brooks, Aaron Gemmel, Helen Maroulis, and Masai Russell. I also thought Noah Lyles was from Maryland, but I might have that mistaken. Katie Ledecky was from D.C. along with Taylor Knibb. And then from Delaware, I know, right, even Delaware, we had Valerie Allman and Megumi Field. Artistic swimming. She won a silver in artistic swimming. That is pretty dang impressive. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who listened live. Thank you to everybody who's going to listen later on the week. Do be sure to follow us on the below social media platforms. Follow me at letswine_ISR. Check us out on all of these platforms. Check out our website. Check out our show pages, the blog, the shop, all of that and more. Shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky. One more time, Planet Jerky Premium Beef Brisket Jerky. Check them out at their website, planetjerky.net, and follow them on Instagram. And Steal the Deal Wax Seals. Check her out on Instagram as well. You can also order her stuff through our website. And of course, everybody, please, 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 I cannot stress this enough. Drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. We will be back next week to talk more DMV sports. Baseball will still be going strong. We'll have more football. Heck, we might even have to start talking about hockey soon because hockey's only a month away. I know it felt like it just ended, but that's because it did, and it's going to start again. And basketball soon. We're ramping up to a big sports time of year. And of course, college football. How can I forget college football? That's going to be starting in a couple of weeks. And we have multiple DMV teams there as well. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.